Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about the COD cycle, the Call of Duty cycle, the cycle that never fails, and we're definitely in part of it right now. This is the time of year where the current game is pretty stale. The next game is currently in its leaks and rumors stage where people are wondering what that game is going to be. The COD cycle is something that never fails, and it's also indicative, I believe, of the player base's actual wants from the franchise, but the developers and Activision fail to deliver a product that the community actually wants. Instead, they deliver a product that is serviceable at best in the short term, and sometimes it's excellent in the long term, but overall, because of the COD cycle and because of how the developers and Activision release their games, they still lose fans during the most crucial parts of the game's life cycle, which causes this COD cycle just to continue to go on and on. So if you guys haven't seen this, it's a meme that came out forever ago. Some dude just put this together and now everyone's referencing it year after year, but a year in a COD player's life. In November, we go crazy over how good the new COD is. Then we do that all the way through January, where we're still kind of enjoying the game. The game is still kind of new. It's kind of fresh. We're in the honeymoon phase. But then 1 month later in February, everybody hates the game. Then in March, we say that the older game is now the best game. Then in May, we go crazy about the next COD trailer. Then the game comes out. We go crazy about how good the game is, and the cycle tends to repeat itself. Where we're at right now is actually post-March. So therefore, we're in the stage where Vanguard wasn't so bad. Yeah, it was. But you're definitely seeing a lot of people going back to Vanguard now. But, Vanguard wasn't so bad. Cold War wasn't so bad. Modern Warfare 2019 was actually pretty great. You know what I miss? Black Ops 4. Going back to it, Advanced Warfare, pretty good game. As games get older, the rose-tinted glasses, the nostalgia kicks in, and then people start talking about how good the older games were, even though during that game's life cycle, we were all up in arms complaining about the game. Like Black Ops 4, for example, is a game that I enjoyed thoroughly. I love that game, but half my videos were still about the Black Ops Pass and supply drops and things like that. Even during the game's life cycle, a lot of my videos were negative because that's how we kind of perceive things during the life cycle of the game. Now we're in a situation where Modern Warfare 2 is not exactly the most well-received game. It's definitely in a pretty bad state. They're focused more on making the shop pay to win and $30 bundles than they are actually caring about their player base, which is why Call of Duty's player base has been dropping, even according to Activision themselves, which must have been pretty difficult for them to admit because they never want to admit things like that. But the COD player base is definitely going down right now. And like I said towards the beginning of the video, this is what I feel like the COD cycle is missing, right? I think the reason why people go back to a game like Vanguard or Cold War or Modern Warfare 2019 or any other game during like the Modern Warfare 2 life cycle, and they say, man, this game was actually pretty good. It was actually pretty fun. I'm enjoying this game. Like, dude, this game had so many redeeming factors. Remember this map? Remember these guns? There are two main reasons why I think people go back to those older games, why they enjoy it, and these are problems that the current games actually have. Number A, skill-based matchmaking. In older COD, when a new game is out now, the older COD, skill-based matchmaking is virtually non-existent because the player base is so small compared to the current game. So with a much smaller player base, the skill-based matchmaking algorithms can't really take as much effect as they did previously, and as a result, if you go back to a game like Vanguard nowadays, you're probably going to be doing pretty damn well if you're a good player. If you go back to Cold War, you'll probably be doing pretty damn well. You're occasionally going to run into other players that decide to go back because they're tired of the current game, but in general, the really like sweaty players are mostly on the more current games or Warzone or what have you, right? So that's number A right there. You just have the fact that when you go back to these older games, inherently you're going to have a better time because you're going to be facing easier people because skill-based matchmaking has been dialed up to 11 in the COD franchise, and those older games, while they're trying to still have it take effect, they can't quite do it as much because the player base is dwindling. And number B, when you go back to a game like Vanguard, you go back to any other older COD, that game has had its entire year's worth of content already released. The problem with Modern Warfare 2 is we're always waiting for the next thing. We're dealing with skill-based matchmaking 24/7, which is like super sweaty and makes the game really unenjoyable at times. And we're also waiting for content. We've been getting like very little post-launch support so far for Modern Warfare 2, and here we are like 6 months, 7 months into the game's life cycle. If you go back to an older COD, all the map packs are out, all the free updates are out, all the DLC weapons are out, everything is done. It's all out. It's all there for you to enjoy. So you have a year's worth of content to go back to in a game with virtually no skill-based matchmaking, and people wonder why the COD cycle exists. You can still complain about the current game. Sure, the current game has plenty of issues. Skill-based matchmaking and lack of content updates are notwithstanding here, but there's many more issues on top of that. When you go back to an older game, a lot of the balancing issues have been addressed. All the content is out. Skill-based matchmaking is virtually non non-existent. You already probably have most of the things unlocked that you may want to play with, whether that's certain weapons or you're probably leveled up, you have all the perks and attachments and things like that. Like everything you would want out of a COD game is there in the older games. Yet as COD players, we focus on the current game and what's coming next and what's coming next. But the game that we currently have is a game that is still basically in development because we don't have like maximum levels yet. We don't have all the guns that are going to be available. We don't have all the maps that are going to be available. We don't have all the equipment or even maybe possibly DLC kill streaks that are going to be coming. We're still waiting for maybe another 6 months now for the rest of Modern Warfare 2 to actually come out. They're drip feeding content over the course of an entire year. The idea is it's called a games as service model. The whole point is they're supposed to be charging us for battle passes and stuff in the shop and then reallocating that money to try to make the game better with more and more updates. But the problem is Activision doesn't actually do that. They just pocket all the microtransaction money and recycle shit from Modern Warfare 2019 and put it in the shop. That's all they've basically been doing. So that is why I think the COD cycle is just as true now as it ever has been. I mean, you can look at it and people will, well, you know, it's a meme at the end of the day. They'll try to say the COD players are just, you know, we're stupid, or, you know, we're just like these kind of people that just like fall into the same cycle every single year. We don't see our own patterns of behavior or anything like that. We do, 100%. I think COD players definitely see the pattern here. The thing is, the COD cycle, once again, is indicative of what the players actually want from the franchise, and it's also a prime example of the developers and Activision, the publisher, failing to deliver a product that the community actually wants. Because what we actually want is a game with very little skill-based matchmaking, a game where we don't feel as though we have to reapply deodorant after every single match, and we also want a game that actually has content in it. You know, even going back to the older CODs, COD 4, World at War, Modern Warfare 2, these are games that would launch with 16 maps and then add another 16 on top of it, you know, via DLC. We had to pay for map packs back then, but still, you know, there was a lot of content in those games. It wasn't as stale as getting like 9 or 10 maps at launch like we've been getting in recent years. And then when DLC finally starts coming out, they just recycle Shipment and Shoot House. Like, you know, there's nothing new, there's nothing fresh, there's nothing innovative about Modern Warfare 2 so far. And I don't think that trend is going to stop before the launch of COD 2023. In fact, I think COD 2023 is going to be more of the same. So, you know, there's the COD cycle, ladies and gentlemen. We're stuck in it, obviously. It's always going to be a thing. There's something, I suppose, comforting about the COD cycle because it happens every single year in virtually the same way. But I do fear that it's growing pretty stale, and I do hope that the Call of Duty developers finally listen to the player base and kind of like get a better feel for what fans actually want. Because if they want to actually start making more money, if they want to start actually having good numbers to share with their shareholders, besides how much microtransactions are able to push to the whales out there, they should take some advice and just like, okay, well, why do fans always want to go back to the older games midway through the current game's life cycle? Do you think it has something to do with the fact that they're tired of sweating every match? You think they're tired of the lack of content? Do you think they're tired of just playing the same 2 maps over and over and over? Maybe we should address that. You would think, but on paper and in my mind anyway, it seems pretty simple. But, you know, when it comes to the business of Call of Duty and the video games industry as a whole, things tend to get a bit more complicated. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all for this video here today. I wanted to discuss the COD cycle and get your guys' thoughts and feedback down there in the comments. And yeah, so hopefully you guys will all do that. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.